For more on this, I can welcome Chowra Makaremi, who is an anthropologist and a researcher at the National Centre for Scientific Research here in Paris. Good morning, Chowra, and thank you very much for joining us. Can I start by asking you, what is the current state of the feminist movement in Iran?
Well, good morning. The feminist movement is still, the strongest movement in the civil society because it has very long roots going back to more than 25 years of struggles now. But it's very targeted by repression, as you know. And civil society has learned in Iran to reconfigure, to reshape their fight when they're targeted by direct repression. They kind of go down in a level of activity that will just below the line where there would be direct target of police and security and physical violence and prison. So the feminist struggle is quieter, it's being reshaped, but it has totally changed the face of resistance of the Iranian society. And this has no going back. So we can see how also the legacy of the women life freedom movement has been to really change the place of women within each of their families, communities, workspace, etc. And this is going on a quieter pace. It's a very quiet revolution that is, being carried on.
Now, you did mention there about how it is probably the largest part of a civil society of contestation in Iran. We've seen in the protests since 2022, actually a lot of Iranian men taking part too, and a number of public figures such as actors and sports people have shown support. Is the women's movement seen as an essential component of anti-authoritarian struggle in Iran?
Absolutely. So there are two things to know here. Is that the feminist struggle in Iran is something that is very organic, that is linked to the Iranian society, because there is something in political theory that says that resistance always, take root where the point of pressure of power are. And in the Iranian state, it's a theocracy, and it's based on gender segregation in the constitution as an element. Half of the population is considered half of having half citizenship rights than the other half, that is the male population. So feminist struggles have a very long history, and they're everywhere, small cities, big cities, in different shapes, and they have become a language of revolt. And this is very important, and I think that in the moment that we are also living in the West, it's very important to be aware of that how when power is targeting women and women's rights and opting for a masculinist, discourse, then feminist struggles become a language of revolt for everyone. Why? Because they want the radical equity of every citizen. And this is why in the women life freedom movement, feminist, demands have become a language of revolt for the ethnic and national minorities and for the urban poor, who were mainly young men.
Now, is there an irony of sorts that in Iran, despite it being a country that, as you said, is gender segregated, but constitutionally and women's rights are severely curtailed, yet there's a very high level of education among women, which probably erodes the official ideology from within?
Absolutely. So this is the point. More than half of the students in higher education have been women. So the women's place within the Iranian society has nothing to do with their, let's say, legal and political status. And here again, I think that it's very difficult in our contemporary world, in everything that is happening right now, to make a sharp difference between, Western democracies, global North, and countries like Iran, or where women's rights are politically and legally below men's rights. Because what is happening is that in the society, in the cultural life, in the social life, women are acting as the equals of men, and this is being accepted now more and more by within the Iranian society. It is not done without tensions. There are many feminicides, but it is being more and more accepted. So what we can see is how when women have a place within their life that they behave as equals as men, and they are having leadership positions in their community, coordinating, organizing, then it's very, very hard to impose on them this inequality of status based solely on rights and judicial status. And this should be a lesson for us here in Europe, in the US, so that we know that it's not easy, to go back into an equal status and masculinist politics.
Now, Iran from the outside might look to many like a monolithic Islamic republic, but within the social complexion and even the ethnic complexion is a lot more diverse. Are all feminist struggles in the country the same?
Absolutely not. You're absolutely right. It's very different. And the thing is that not only feminist struggle in Balochistan, for instance, where women are, it's at the border with Afghanistan and Pakistan. Here, in this very, very repressed ethnic minority, women have both a lot of traditional and community pressure, but then this whole community that is very conservative against women is itself, repressed by the central state. So this is layered domination, and actually these women have learned how to make their voice, be heard by the feminists who are based in Tehran, in the center of the country, and are more like urban, educated, middle class, feminists. So all these different kind of feminisms are learning to dialogue, to be in conversation throughout the struggle. But what is important is that the feminist, movement, because it's very old, and it has developed strategies that are very adjusted to the specific kind of repression that is the theocratic one. So because their strategies are they are relevant, they have given a language of revolt to ethnic and national minorities. So it's not only feminism, women's right against, on the one hand, environmental fight on the other, and then, minorities' right on the other. It's how all these different struggles intersect, firstly because when feminists have been very harshly repressed in the years 2010s, they have exiled themselves in other struggles, in other movements. They have become leaders in the students' movement, in the unions, in the environmentalist, ecological movements, because they could no longer identify as feminists. So, all these different fights now are converging into a demand for regime change. And this is what Iran teaches us, is that feminism is not only about asking for equal rights, but how the mere fact to say all of us, we are radically equal, can be a matrix, can nurture and fuel political demands for a democratic regime.
Now, have there been any alliances formed by Iranian women with women's movements in other countries, be it the Middle East, the West, or elsewhere in the world?
Oh, absolutely. Like the woman life freedom is a slogan that comes from Rojava Kurdistan, right? Syrian Kurdistan. And it's inspired by the PKK leader Abdullah Öcalan's work. So from the start, and this is what I show in my book, if Gina Maahsa Amini's murder by the morality police has sparkled these women life freedom uprisings, this unprecedented wave of protest across Iran, it's because she was Kurdish, Gina Maahsa Amini. And so there was a network, I call it a nervous system of resistance, inherited by also the Kurdish women's struggles around, across Kurdish regions in Turkey, in Iraq, and in Syria. And this nervous system of resistance that was, quiet, that was maybe invisible, that was maybe minoritarian, it gave the organization so that when this murder happened, then people could organize to answer in a minute and come with this slogan, Jinjian Azadi, inherited from the Kurdish struggle. But what I want to say, moreover, is that there has been for now a decade a global feminist struggle that is very active in Americas, in North America, in South America, in Argentina, in Chile, the way Argentinian feminists have become, the forefront of the resistance against the neo-fascist regime of Milei. These global struggles that are very organized and that make the conversation between, indigenous movement, anti-extractivist movement, and movement that supports the fight for environment and feminist struggles. So these movements have inspired Iranian feminists as well, so that we can say that the Women Life Freedom Uprisings is as much inspired by the global feminist movements of the year 2020. We're living in a decade where there is a lot of feminist inspiration and renewal. So this feminist struggle is as much inspired by these contemporary global struggles as it is inspired by the genealogy, the genesis, the roots of the Iranian feminisms that goes back to the March 8th first demonstration of women against the Islamic Republic and against Khomeini's decree to impose the veil. At the time, it was the very first demonstration against the new Islamic Republic born of the Islamic Revolution in 79, and it is the women who led it. The memory of that 8th of March 79 has been erased for decades in Iran, and it's throughout the Women Life Freedom movement that those erased, confiscated archives of struggle and memory of resistance came back at the forefront.
Thank you very much for that, Chowra Makaremi, anthropologist and researcher at the CNRS in Paris.
Thank you.